If you wish to address the commission, please see Cherry and fill out one of these blue forms for me, please. Thank you. It's 1:33. The June 21st meeting of the Oklahoma City Traffic and Transportation Commission's call to order. Jim Witcher. Present. Dan Martin. Here. Walter Kula. Harvey Harris. Here. James Schuline. Here. Jolene Pittman. John May. Here. Milford J. Clayton.
Present.
Item 2A, approval of the minutes from the May 17th meeting. Do I have a motion? I have a motion to approve the minutes from the May 17th meeting by Commissioner May, seconded by Commissioner Clayton. Discussion? Could I have your votes, please? Approved unanimously. Thank you. Item 3 is the report on licensed taxi and wrecker services. The next report will be in August 2010. Item 4 is the consent docket. Do I have a motion to approve? Second. I have a motion to approve the consent docket by Commissioner Clayton, seconded by Commissioner Martin. Further discussion?
I have a question on one, and this, the name, it's B, it's 1B, and, well, I guess it's 4B, the taxi service with the name A Taxi Service. Wonder if we could maybe move that over to items for consideration. And we have an A1 taxi, now this is A taxi.
Commissioner Clayton, would you like to amend your motion?
Yes, I'll amend the motion to strike the ones that we said initially in the having an individual.
Okay, what the motion will be then is to approve item D from the consent docket, and items A, B, and C will be moved to the items for individual consideration. Does that, I'm sorry, I don't know who the second was.
I second it.
Thank you. Further discussion? Could I have your votes, please? Approved? Item 4A for individual consideration from the consent docket. The applicant is Bubu Gaku, owner of Maddie Transport, 12831 North Stratford Drive, apartment 221, Oklahoma City. The request is to consider an application from Bubu Gaku, doing business as Maddie Transport, for a certificate of public convenience and necessity to operate 10 vehicles in limousine service. Mr. Gaku, if you'd step up to the podium, please. Could you have your name and address, state your name and address for the record, please?
Yes, the first name is Bubu, last name Gaku, and the address is 12831 North Stratford Drive, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Yes, I'm sorry, that's my first time, talking actually in public like that. But I was saying is the address is 12831 North Stratford Drive, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma.
If you'll raise that microphone up a little bit, there you go.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
This item was taken from the consent docket. What were the concerns that we had for that?
I have no concern with A. It's only with 4. It's the one on A taxi service, which would be B.
It's item B.
Item B.
You've got several people.
This is the only one. Do any of the commissioners have questions of Mr. Gaku about
So
his
this is,
request?
okay, I have a question. So this is for limousine service, correct?
Yes, basically what we're doing is we getting customers from downtown Oklahoma City to the airport, like business people. Usually that's what we want to do.
Okay.
I mean, we we want in the future to expand, for luxury, stretch limo in the future.
Any further? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Gaku.
I've got a question.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Ray.
Sir, look at this application, it's pretty thorough, except I've got a concern, and that is that in the application itself, it shows the business address is 12831 North Stafford, apartment 221.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
How do you operate a business out of an apartment? And the second question is, does the apartment complex know you're operating a business out of their apartment?
As far as actually the apartment complex here, I told them about them about that. Right now, we only have one vehicle. It's like a sedan. It's the Lincoln Town Car, and they didn't have any objection to that.
I guess I didn't catch all of what you had to say, but
Yeah, what I was saying is, as of right now, we only have one vehicle. It's the Lincoln
Right.
Town Car sedan, and we already informed the apartment complex, and they didn't have any objections to it, and they're aware of it.
the apartment complex
Correct.
is informed and
Right.
they're aware of it and they approve of it.
Correct. Because we only have actually one car right now, so,
And you got a chance for having 10.
I'm sorry,
Your application is for 10, isn't it?
I couldn't hear that.
Isn't your application for 10 vehicles?
Yes, when I was actually doing the application, when I went actually to, when I went actually downtown to do that, the lady told me that usually, it's better for you just to go ahead and put 10, in the event where, you need more vehicle.
And my basic two concerns are the practicality of running a business like this out of an apartment when you potentially could have 10 vehicles.
Right.
And the second thing is, there's a lot of apartments that will not allow a business to be run out of their apartment.
Correct. Well, actually, in 2 months, actually, we're planning to move out from there. It's just like an address that we put on there, but in 2 months, we're going to move out from there. Again, that 10 vehicle limit that we put on there, we were advised that it would be better just to go ahead and put 10 vehicle instead of coming back and, going through the whole approval process again.
Okay, well, you've answered my questions, and you intend to, as you develop your business, move out of the facility you have now. You said a couple of months or so?
Yes, actually, even in less than a month, we're actually moving out from there.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Thank you.
I just wanted to tell the applicant that if you're approved today, since your schedule of fares just shows $25 for downtown to the airport, if you decide to expand your business later, be sure and come back and amend your application so that all your fares are, that we have those on file.
Okay, no problem. Thank you.
You do have to get your vehicle inspected by the police
Yes.
department before you can start operating.
Okay.
Okay.
Could I have staff summary, please?
Okay, we've reviewed the application, found it to be complete, and recommend approval.
Do I have a motion?
I'll second that.
I have a motion to approve item 4A by Commissioner Clayton, seconded by Commissioner May. Is there further discussion? Could I have your votes, please? Approved unanimously.
Thank you, guys. Thanks.
Item 4B, the applicant is Nafar Najam, CEO of J&K Enterprises and Imports, LLC, doing business as A Taxi, 11617 Roxborough Avenue, Oklahoma City. The request is to consider an application from Javar Nam, CEO, J&K Enterprises and Imports, LLC, doing business as A Taxi, for a certificate of public convenience and necessity to operate 40 vehicles in taxi cab service. Mr. Najam, I hope I pronounced your name correctly. If you'd state your name and address for the record, please.
Yeah, the first name is Jaffer, last name is Najm, 11617 Roxborough Avenue, Oklahoma City, 73162.
Did any of the commissioners have questions for Mr. Najam?
Yes, I do. In looking at your application, are you presently doing business as A1 or starting a business as A1? I mean, a
Neither.
taxi.
We'll be starting as a taxi.
Okay. Are you aware that there's an A1 taxi service?
Very well aware of that.
Okay. And to me, the name is very similar, and it's not distinct.
Similar, but not the same.
It's not the same. But it's very, and could be looked at maybe as the same. And this is my concern, is that one thing.
Well, Mr. Harris, we had put in 11 DBAs for our business, out of which all 11 are presently taken but not operational in the state of Oklahoma. And a taxi is available as per state of Oklahoma.
That's true.
So if it's available, I guess legally it can be used as a business entity under the DBA.
Yeah.
And so we just chose it. From a business standpoint, from operational point of view, once we give our advertisements in the yellow pages, it goes to our advantage because it comes on the top. That is
Right.
that is our point of view. Other than that, and as the CEO, I've got to look into,
Yeah.
from the growth point of view of my business. So,
Well, that was the first thing that, when I saw this stuff, it just jumped out at me, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
So, and I can see your point, I do. Is there any regulations or anything that,
Well, to be accepted, one of the criteria that they have to prove is that they, in all likelihood, would be able to meet the operating requirements as a taxi company, and that is in 5666.4, the ability of the applicant to comply with operating requirements. One of the operating requirements is that their vehicle, the color scheme, they have should be the color scheme and bear the owner's trade name, monogram, or insignia, which are distinguishable from the color scheme, owner's trademark, monogram, or insignia used on vehicles of any other owner already operating pursuant to this article. So I would just ask, I know that someone from A1 is present, do you have any comment or protest about the name A Taxi and the color scheme, and think that there's going to be somehow some confusion over this? Okay, then we might want to hear from Ms. Valencia.
Well, can we ask Mr. Najam, is there a particular color scheme for your vehicles that you're...
yeah, I think it's mentioned in the application.
Yellow over...
Our vehicles are two-tone. The hood, the top, and the trunk are yellow.
Okay.
And all the entire side panels on both of the sides are black. So it's like a... Oops. Our vehicles are like a bumblebee. And I think they stand out from both the companies operating in Oklahoma City. They totally stand out different. They're not like any other vehicle that are operating as a taxi in Oklahoma City right now.
What color are A1s? I can't remember.
They're black.
They're black, okay.
And then you have the yellow. The yellow, as of, I believe, if my memory is correct and with me, about 4.5 years back, were asked, they are not on paper, what I'm about to say, were asked to paint their bumpers black, and that is just for cost reduction, because the bumpers chip off, and in inspection, it's very hard to pass them, because bumper is the first thing that gets chipped off, and every time they have to go to the state fairground for inspection, the touch-up costs them a lot. So it's just on a P&L for cost reduction, because the drivers were incurring in a lot of cost. Just to get the touch-up is almost getting a vehicle painted. So they were asked just get it black. So now some of the vehicles, some of the yellow cabs are black, some are not. But that has not been filed into the city as our yellow cabs are going to be yellow, but the bumpers are going to be black. So you have yellow cabs floating around with some bumpers black, some panels black, some are just yellow. So our vehicles are strictly the hood, the trunk, the top yellow, the side panels, the doors and all black. That's our color scheme. And the name is A Taxi, which is available by the state of Oklahoma.
Thank you, Mr. Najam. Further questions?
Any other questions?
I have several others that would like to speak on this matter as well before we vote. Sure. So if you... Okay. Tawana Valencia. Could you state your name and address, please?
Tawana Valencia, 3511 Charleston Road, Norman, Oklahoma. First of all, I'd like to say I stand behind anybody coming in. I've fought for that all along. I would help them any way I could. But going on, there's a lot of colors out there. He's using black and yellow, which we already have black and yellow taxis, and he's using a taxi. I mean, there's got to be other options out there. We've got limos operating under ICAB. We've got, I mean, we're just pulling into more and more confusion. I have people calling me asking me about the taxi ICAB. There is no taxi ICAB, but they don't get that because it's called ICAB. And I know it's a name. I get that. But this is just getting too confusing. There's plenty of colors out there. Pick one. There's plenty of names out there. Be creative. Pick one so that you're not more or less just copying off of the two cabs that are here. I'm all for them, but let's call them different. Let's separate them and let's get them, out there and working and going.
Thank you, Mrs. Valencia. Could we have staff summary, please?
We've reviewed the application, and we would recommend approval of the Certificate of Public Convenience and Necessity for this taxi cab operation.
Could I have OCPD's comments on this, please?
I think our main concern is going to be the color scheme. Looking at the proposed colors from the side, it's going to look like a black taxi. You're not going to be able to see the hood or the deck lid. When people, I think in general, the name and the similar colors, people are going to, that's going to bring all three of the companies together. So if someone has a complaint over erratic driving and they do a quick look, I can't say was it yellow or was it black. Yeah, it's going to be hard for them to distinguish. Well, I don't know. I saw yellow, I saw black, and this is the number that was on it. So it's going to make that aspect of our job a little bit harder.
Let the record indicate that that was Sergeant McCaleb speaking, please. Any questions from commissioners?
Maybe we need to bring the applicant back up and see if he's willing, if you all think that there's enough of that. I think perhaps you should bring the applicant back up and see if you think that there is enough potential here for confusion that would lead to his inability to meet the operating requirements. It is going to cause some confusion for the police department with the name and the color scheme. So perhaps if the applicant would be willing to orally amend his application to change the color of his vehicles to white or something else to make it completely distinguishable from the other taxis that are already operating, then we could make an amendment to that application today so that he could get approved, if that was the only issue.
Well, I think as far as Sergeant Caleb's, I don't see any confusion in the color thing. The two-tone. Doing the research for this, I've been at it for almost about a year and a half. Just last year, I traveled about 19 countries. Each of these countries have two-tone cabs.
I think it's two-tone.
Two-tone would, I think it'll make your job easier. That's my opinion. As far as the name goes, Ms. T, we'll change it. As far as it does not cost us any further delay. We've already been sitting on this project since January 14th when I got back. I'll change it. I'll change it right now. You can jot it down. We'll change it to Thundercab. Thundercab. Yeah, just like our basketball team. Would that be all right? Ms. T, do you have any objection? Is that creative enough? Cool. Very good. So if y'all don't have any objection, and this does not delay us, because we're actually at the process of rolling it out.
What about the color?
Now, Sergeant McCaleb, yellow, black, we would really like to keep it that way because we've got contracts set up, we've got the whole 9 yard done up. As of 22nd, I've been in this 12 years in this business. Trust me, it'll make your job easier. It'll make your job very easier at the inspection time. The roof is yellow, side is black. You don't have no problem.
Mr. Najam?
And then the decals are yellow.
Mr. Najam, are your vehicles already colored, already painted that color scheme?
They would be going in as of tomorrow morning.
Okay, the difficulty, if you're able to change the
Well,
name...
that's a business strategy, so yeah, there will be
Okay.
cost difficulty. There would be cost difficulty, yes.
The Thunder colors, blue and yellow. Well, I mean, if you're going to be called Thunder Cow, you should look like...
My team is emotional. They're not that emotional.
I mean, that maybe Oklahoma Thunder might have a problem with that. I don't know.
Any further?
What we're discussing here is going to go on record, painting colors and things of this type. So we need to pin this down right now at this point.
I would really appreciate if, naturally, Sergeant Caleb's comments are important, but we would really appreciate if the color scheme stays two-tone, yellow and black.
Well,
But if it really is going to create that much of a confusion, which I really don't foresee, but if it is, because if you look around, you've got black and orange, you've got two-tone taxis in every continent from Europe all the way to Africa.
Sergeant Ricketts with the police department. If it makes it easier for you guys, the current cab company is Yellow Cab. Their color scheme is yellow with black bumpers and black decals. A1 taxi are solid black cabs with white decals. Airport Express is kind of a light blue colored vehicle with yellow decals. So those are the current color schemes that are out there. I agree with Sergeant McCaleb that it could cause some confusion by having, a black cab with some yellow on it is, some person may mistake the car. If they want a yellow cab, they may mistake it for a yellow cab, or they want an A1 cab, and they may mistake it for an A1 cab, having the black and the yellow.
Thank you. Further questions of Mr. Najam?
Have you cleared the name Thunder Cab?
Yes.
So it's name
Thunder
is
Cab.
available?
Yeah.
It doesn't impede the Thunder organization by having a logo?
If I get into that, then whatever I name it, we might end up with Bill Gates, I'm all right with Thunder Cab. Now, if they have some legality and they say, well, it's a patent, you cannot name it Thunder Cab, they get free marketing out of it. They get Thunder.
But you've checked it out in the state?
Again, now if I start getting it, we might end up another month. We delay this process. I really don't know. Once I get out of here, I call my attorney. They'll have to check into it. But again, the legality of it sits very simply. If the state says the DBA is available, it is available. Legally, if the state says, and the state secretary sends me and faxes me the DBA, a cab is available, it is available. I can use it under my business name, J&K Enterprise, period. But I have a lot of respect for Ms. T, and if she's not comfortable with it, that's fine. I will not use a cab. I will change it to Thunder Cab. What their legalities are as our state team, and they say, hey, guess what? That's a basketball team. That's not a taxi cab company. This is a taxi cab company. They don't have wholesale rights on the word Thunder. Next time we have Thunder in Oklahoma, they say, hey, don't say the word Thunder. So I don't foresee that I cannot have a cab company with the name Thunder. Thunder is a general, it's a common.
But that is available, you checked that, it's available in the state or it is not?
It is. As of last month, it was available. If someone took it within the last 29 days of us waiting for this meeting, that I do not know. But I'm sure that, because within the three names that were left.
It was available?
It was available.
You haven't reserved it?
It was available.
But you have not reserved it?
No. You can't reserve a name.
Well,
You just pick one, and then they fax you, you pay the fee, and then
Right.
you take that.
Well, that's the same as...
And then someone else, if they want to take that name, they take it, and then you're out of luck. Then you come up with
Okay.
some other name. So I'm quite sure that Thunder is available. But if it is not, then I can contact either Ms. Valerie or...
We can just approve, if you want to approve it today, we can approve it under Thunder, and if that is later not available, then he'll need to redo his application, change the name, come back next month.
Very good.
Further questions, discussion? Do I have a motion?
I would recommend that we approve his application with a change from A Taxi to Thunder Cab.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll be all right with the color, Sergeant Taylor. LCP, or is it really going to be a problem?
It's not going to be as big of a problem for me, because I'm going to know the difference between the people from the police department and the vehicle for hire office will know the difference. The problem is going to be, if you meet a taxi cab coming at you, they swerve in your lane of traffic, you see yellow, by your company sign, you're going to see a yellow cab coming at you. That's the phone call I'm going to get, is I just got swerved at by a yellow cab. That's the complaint that I'm going to get. I'm not going to know which cab company it is. But
You got 3 feet of quarter panel on the side of the door. And yellow cab, first of all, yellow cab is yellow. Why does it have bumpers painted black if it's not filed in with the city? What is their color scheming of yellow cab? Yellow. Is it filed in with the city? Is it filed in with the city that they're bumper? So then you have 3 color schemes of yellow cab. Yellow cab with black bumpers, and then yellow cab with black bumpers and black panels. Which color scheme are they allowed to use? You might want to straighten that up first. Because our top lights are black and yellow, based on the color scheming of our total vehicle.
Let's go ahead and amend it to change it to Thunder Cab and recommend approval of the request.
And I'll second that motion.
Okay. I have a motion to approve with the name change of Thunder Cab, and this is for item 4B, and the motion was made by Commissioner Harris and seconded by Commissioner Witcher. Further discussion? Could I have your votes, please? Approved unanimously.
Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'm sorry, it was approved, not unanimously. Thank you.
Sir, before you go, just make sure that you have your vehicles inspected. You cannot operate any vehicles under your license yet. Thanks.
I didn't notice it. Did you abstain? Item 4C, Edwin Parker, owner, Champagne Chauffeurs Limited, 14809 Metro Plaza Boulevard, Suite 4, Edmond, Oklahoma. The request is to consider an application from Edwin Parker doing business as Champagne Chauffeurs Limited for a certificate of public convenience and necessity to operate 10 vehicles in limousine service. Mr. Parker?
Yes, Edwin Parker, 14809 Metro Plaza Boulevard, that's Suite 4 in Edmond, Oklahoma, zip code 73013.
Thank you. Questions of Mr. Parker from commissioners?
I'd kind of like to know what an exotic limousine service is. I don't know that you had any letters from any companies attached to your application to say why the service is needed, and your justification was just to say that we're the only exotic service. Could you explain that a little bit?
Yes, we specialize in exotic limousines, so like the car that we have now is a stretch 2008 Charger. It's got a custom two-tone paint job, custom interior. We've got a fiber optics light show inside. It's got Lamborghini doors. It's got a lot of flair to it, a lot of items that the other limousine companies do not provide. So I think that's why we should be considered an exotic limousine service.
Any other questions for Mr. Parker? Could I have staff's summary, please?
Okay, staff recommends approval of the application as submitted.
Could I have a motion? I have a motion to approve by Commissioner May, seconded by Commissioner Clayton. Further discussion? Could I have your votes, please? Approved unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. This will take us to Section 5, the items for individual consideration. Item 5A, the Municipal Counselor's Office, the Police Department, and the Traffic Management Division. The request is to review a proposed ordinance amending Section 2-751 of Division 4 of Article 7 of Chapter 2 of the Oklahoma City Municipal Code 2007 by allowing appeals of orders of the Traffic and Transportation Commission regarding vehicles for hire regulation to be conducted in conformance with 26-17 through 26-24 of the Code, repealing Section 3-22 of Article 2 of Chapter 3 of the Oklahoma City Municipal Code of 2007, repealing Chapter 56 in its entirety and enacting a new Chapter 56 providing for regulation of motor vehicles for hire and carriages, defining terms, establishing business license requirements, including application requirements, establishing penalties for violations, establishing criteria for granting a business license with hearing and notice required, establishing fees for licensing, establishing operating requirements for all vehicles for hire, establishing grounds for revocation/suspension of a business license, establishing vehicle maintenance and inspection requirements, prohibiting smoking in vehicles for hire, defining unlawful refusals of service and establishing penalties including administrative fees, establishing periodic compliance checks for refusals of service violations, establishing requirements for drivers permitting and grounds for suspension/revocation of the driver's permits and notice and hearing, establishing fees for driver's permits, repealing Articles 1, 2, and 3 of Title 56 of Chapter 60 of the Oklahoma City Municipal Code 2007 in their entirety and enacting a new Title 56 of Chapter 60 and forward a recommendation to the City Council for its adoption.
I want to ask the commissioners real quick because we've got a lot of slips on this. It looks like you've got representatives from the horse carriage, one from the taxi, and one from ICAB, which I believe is a limo service. Is that correct? Which would you like to hear first? On the Ms. Valencia with the taxi, Mr. Espinoza with ICAB, and then looks like 4 representatives from the horse carriage. Want to take the horse carriages first?
Since we do have so many to speak on that, if we could have staff's summary, please, first.
Okay, this will be very brief. The accompanying ordinance is a product of the efforts of the City Council's Taxi Task Force and the Traffic and Transportation Commission's special subcommittee review of the city's regulations regarding or governing the vehicle for hire industry. You've got a summary and you've got a commentary on all the major actions that were taken. You can see where where following the conclusion of the City Council's Taxi Task Force, the Traffic and Transportation Commission met several times and they took up items that were unfinished from the original Taxi Task Force. Staff is recommending that the Commission review the proposed ordinance and forward a recommendation to the City Council for its adoption, and we'd be happy to answer any questions as they may come up.
Okay. Mary Lou, I'm sorry, I can't pronounce your last name. I'll mess it up if I try. If you would state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Mary Lou Gwastek. My address is 10041 South Westminster Road, Guthrie, Oklahoma, 73044. And I'm here today for the safety and concern of the public. I have been in horses for a long time. I've worked with famous trainers, and I see some things that are happening that are really disheartening to me as an owner-operator. One of the things is I don't like to be run out of a business that I just started in October of this year. And I had an incident on a Saturday, and I'm not going to go into the explicit details, and I'm sure Sergeant McCaleb is very aware of some of these things. But I called 911 because there was a horse that was pulled behind my carriage, right on top of my carriage, which was into my fabric of the back seat of my carriage. When I am loading clientele, this is very nerve-wracking to people. And I am next to horses that are not my own. I am a one-carriage operation. Someday I may expand, someday I may not. I may just like to do my Friday, Saturday thing. And I enjoy the public. It has always been my thing. But anyways, in this situation that occurred, I called 911 and police came, and he said, well, that is only etiquette when they put a carriage up on yours, that you keep a proper distance. I didn't say anything. I just said, okay, officer, thank you. He felt it was more of a situation of domestic violence, that, you know, you should all get along. Well, I have all the other carriage companies represented. Oklahoma City Premier, Cameo Carriages, and Clippity Clop all are in agreement. We were all there when these things occurred, and we were like stunned with the situation. So from this point forward, I decided to be professional and say, okay, whatever is, and I will abide by the rules as is set forth. But people do walk in between carriages when they come up because they love the horses and they pet them. If a horse is too close to the back of a carriage, how can we maintain safety if a customer is coming through and the horse behind decides to take 2 steps forward? It's okay that they have a distance, but if they're right on top of each other and people do walk through even when it's tight, an accident could occur. I don't want that to happen. So that's why I'm here, and I know that there are other incidents that occur. That is just the first of many. We personally don't have any problem with any other carriage company and want to be, you know, get along with everybody, but we want not to be run off the street.
Thank you. John Zadek. I would ask that we keep our we have so many, I would ask that we keep our comments to 3 minutes, and please add to any previous statements.
My name is John Gwasdek, 10041 South Westminster, Guthrie, Oklahoma. I'm an owner-operator with Bright Star Carriages. That was my wife. We started business in October last year, and I worked for D&D Carriages, and she runs it like she owns the city. I worked for her for 2 years, quit because of problems. started my own job, and she tries to run us off. She runs the carriages up, and my carriage is very expensive. I try to protect it for the public safety. Last week I had an incident in front of Spaghetti Warehouse, and D&D evidently brought in the owner of Spaghetti Warehouse and tried to say I had assault the other driver keeping her horse off my carriage, and he was going to call the 911, but that didn't happen. He was going to file charges. And I says, with my carriage company, I comply with the laws and rules and regulations. And when I get inspected...
Mr. Zowdick, I'm going to have to interrupt you because this really doesn't have any bearing on this item that we're talking about.
Well, in reality, it is because their carriages go beyond inspection date. I get my carriage inspected on inspection date. The police department looks at it and says, no, they have a grace period, but according to regulations, there is no grace period. And they just let it go by. She has drivers driving without licenses.
Okay, but now these are instances that will be addressed through code enforcement and violations by the OCPD.
Okay.
Correct?
Yes.
Okay. And what we're talking about now are the changes that will, this is an individual instance of an infraction of either whether it be common courtesy or law, we haven't determined yet.
Right.
But at this point, I would ask, do you have any comments that are related directly to the municipal code that we're considering?
No.
Okay, thank you. Wendy Meyer.
Hello. Wendy Meyer, 8651 East Simpson Road, Guthrie, Oklahoma. I'm here on behalf of Cameo Carriage and in support of the other companies. We're all in agreement that we need some sort, there are some rules and regulations on the book. We just need something on the book that the officers in Bricktown are familiar with. Our problem is that the officers in Bricktown are not familiar with the laws and are not able to enforce them. I'm hoping that with what you have here, that these will put some sort of laws on the books that the officers are able and will be willing to enforce, because we have not had a good reception dealing with the police officers down there when we do call them for an incident.
Thank you, Ms. Meyer. Dale Willis.
My name is Dale Willis, Clippity Clop Carriage, 300 Southeast 62nd, Oklahoma City, 73149. Basically, what Wendy just said is what's going on. We were told that we need to bring these problems to you is why we're here. Otherwise, if I was thinking as I was looking at the agenda, this may not apply to that, the 5A. So basically, what I want to say is that I also did the same as John. I'm just going to put that out there. I worked for D&D. When I quit, I tried to stay off of her toes. Everywhere I move, she follows me. She puts up free signs wherever I'm sitting. The one thing I would like, if today's not the day to do that, I would like you to enforce the law that no signs are allowed they can't use signs. And I think there is a law that says they can't use street signs, or they have to have another permit for them. And I just want to do away with her sign. That'll save a lot of headache for us. Because she put a sign at Spaghetti Warehouse with her regular prices, and wherever I was sitting, she went around and moved and put a free sign. So those kind of things I want to be enforced.
Thank you, Mr. Willis.
Thank you.
If y'all don't have any questions for me yet, I don't have anything to add at this time. I'd go ahead and let everybody. I mean, I think I spoke with someone in the carriage industry. I can't remember his name at the moment. I don't believe he's here. Yeah, and he told me that there were going to be several people from the carriage industry here today. So I'd already talked to the police department and found out from them that There were several calls to 911. There were complaints made. It seems like some of the carriage companies are having disagreements with D&D Carriage. Seems to be the primary problem. There were some citations written. So the police department, they are aware of the laws. They are enforcing them to the best of their ability. Some of the things that were reported were not violations of the code, so they could not do anything about that.
Thank you. As we have two other individuals that wish to speak, and this will be with regards to taxis, I believe. One's in. Ms. Valencia?
Tawana Valencia, A1 Taxi, 3511 Charleston Road. Basically, and I don't everybody get shocked, I just want to say I think we're on the right road here. I think we all did a great job in pulling this together and the decisions that were made. I also want to take this chance to thank Sergeant McCaleb, Sergeant Ricketts, and the guy that was with you, I didn't catch his name. During inspection this year, I'm kind of new at Oklahoma City inspections. They were so helpful, gave me a lot of good pointers, and I just appreciate everything that they did through inspection time. I was going nuts. And I just appreciate everybody for listening to me over this last year and all the work we've made. And us working together is working, and I think we need to keep doing that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Espinoza? I'm sorry, if you'd step up to the microphone, please.
I thought I needed to talk today, but I guess I didn't, so I thought.
Okay, if you'd state your name and address for me.
Ignacio Espinosa, 1612 Northwest 13th Street, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, 73106. I thought that I was going to have to speak today, but I don't. So.
Okay. If we have any questions, we'll call you back up, okay? Thank you. Okay. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second. Okay. I have a motion by Commissioner May, seconded by Commissioner Witcher, and that is to approve this and move it on to the City Council. Is that correct? Okay. Further discussion? Questions? Comments? Could I have your votes, please? Approved unanimously. I would like to take a moment. I got involved about 6 months ago, and I'd like to thank our counsel, Amy Douglas, for all of her hard work on this, and Lieutenant Macy and Sergeant Roberts and Sergeant McCaleb for all of your work, and especially with regards to the public safety issues that were brought to us. I think the subcommittee really valued those things, and they were well received by the industry as well. And I think I agree with Ms. Valencia. We're on the right path, and let's try this, and hopefully the council will like what we've done. And there may be room for improvement later on, but we'll start with this and see where it goes. Thank you. Item 5B, Timothy W. Johnson, P.E. Johnson and Associates, 100 East California Avenue, 3rd floor, Oklahoma City. The request is to consider lowering the speed limit on North Classen Boulevard from 40 to 35 miles per hour from A, I-44 to Northwest Grand Boulevard, or B, from Northwest Expressway to Northwestern Avenue. Mr. Johnson.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Tim Johnson with Johnson Associates. You already have my address. We're here on behalf of the applicant, being Chesapeake Energy. Their desire is to lower the speed limit as described. We've met with the staff, we've discussed this with the staff, and we feel like by lowering it to meet the 85th percentile as measured, is a reasonable request. The concerns in this area is as growth has come along with the Classen Boulevard extension, there are concerns with the number of additional driveways being added, and I just want to make sure everybody's safe. And we also agree with the staff's recommendation to extend that from our original request to their noted request from Northwest Highway to Western Avenue.
Questions of Mr. Johnson? Do I have a motion? I have a motion by Commissioner Clayton, seconded by Commissioner May to approve. Further discussion? Comments?
I think that the motion ought to include either A or B, shouldn't it? It includes B.
I'll restate the motion unless there's further discussion. Okay. The motion is to approve the request with item B from Northwest Expressway to Northwestern Avenue, and that will be lowering the speed limit to 35 miles per hour. Could I have your votes, please? Approved unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Item 5C, the applicant is Catherine Vaughn, 2008 Elmhurst Avenue, Oklahoma City. The request is to consider establishing a no parking anytime restriction on the north side of Elmhurst Avenue from Greystone Avenue to the corporate limits of the city of Nichols Hills. Ms. Vaughn?
Yes. My name is Catherine Vaughn. I live at 2008 Elmhurst Avenue in Oklahoma City, and my zip is 73120. I'm glad you have a visual. This is real hard to understand, but there are just 5 houses in this area, and we live directly across the street from a church and a school. Okay. Unfortunately, the street where we live is so narrow that when they park on both sides, most of us can't even get out of our driveways. So what I'd like to do is just put no parking on one side of the street, which involves 2 houses. It's maybe 5 parking spaces so that traffic can flow. If you go up east of where we're talking about, in the Nichols Hills area, on that side of the street it says no parking anytime, and on the other side of the street it says no parking on Sunday. So it's really just continuing what's already been done. Questions?
The 2 houses on the opposite side of the street that you're talking about, did they sign your petition?
Yes, sir.
And they're in agreement with this?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I drove up there, and it is a very limited.
Yeah, and I have pictures to show you how bad.
It's like half a block, and I'm in favor of staff's recommendation to.
I'd second that. Okay.
Any further questions for Ms. Vaughn? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We could have staff summary, please.
Okay, we have reviewed the application and in recognition of support from the affected neighbors. Staff recommends approval of the request as described in her letter, which is restricting parking on the north side of Elmhurst Avenue from Greystone Avenue east to the corporate limits of Nichols Hills.
I'll make a motion for approval.
Now I'll second that.
Thank you. Have a motion by Commissioner Martin, seconded by Commissioner Harris to approve item 5C. Could I have your votes, please? Approved unanimously. Thank you. Item 5D, the applicant is Don Murray, 4039 Northwest 8th Street, Oklahoma City. The request is to consider establishing all-way stop control at the intersection of Farrah Drive and Northwest 8th Street. Mr. Murray?
Don Murray, 4039 Northwest 8th Street, Oklahoma City, 73107. I'm trying to make my area that I live in and there around a little bit more safer because we've got people constantly speeding down through my neighborhood on a daily basis, all hours of the day. We've got trucking companies, Loomis Armored Trucks, UPS, FedEx, Coca-Cola. This is a residential area, but they're trying to turn it into a trucking lane. We just had our road repaved a few years ago, and they told us that it wasn't designed for heavy traffic like that's coming up and down through there, and they're going to destroy our roads. And I'm just afraid they're going to run over somebody one day. I've had Oklahoma City Police out there constantly monitoring the area, trying to make it safer, but it's just not working. So I'm trying to see what I can do to try to slow these people down.
Anybody have any questions of Mr. Murray? Thank you. Could I have staff summary, please?
Okay. Strictly based on a review of the intersection with respect to the city's all-way stop control criteria, staff does not have cause to recommend approval of the request as submitted. You can see we've got information on the collision history for the intersection, which doesn't indicate any problems, and also the traffic volumes that are shown for Farrah Drive and for Northwest 8th Street. And you'll notice that we fall short on meeting the minimum volume thresholds for the use of all-way stop control at this intersection.
I met with Mr. Murray this past week about this issue and talked with him, and I explained to him that the intersection does not meet the requirements for all-way stop control. And that's when he related to me that the problem is actually speed up and down this street. Northwest 8th Street is a through street from Portland to Tulsa Avenue. On one side of the street, on the north side of the street, it's residential, and on the south side of the street, it's commercial or industry. The street does not have curbs. It's a blacktop surface, but there are only curbs in front of 2 or 3 of the businesses along there. While we were there, while we were speaking in his front yard, we observed lots of heavy traffic. There was not a speed count done for this particular street, but I'm guessing that it would probably come in at the neighborhood of between 30 and 35 miles an hour, the 85th percentile, a minimum. So based on this, I would have to recommend that we don't put in the 3-way stop as requested, but I'd like to see what our alternatives are to solving Mr. Murray's problem with regards to the speed and some of those things, and I'm open to suggestions from the other commissioners.
It's awful. I mean, it's hilly. I mean, so when you're coming over to Farrah, I mean, it's really blind coming over if you're going west. So, I mean, I don't know if an intersection sign up there would help, or, approaching an intersection, or slow, or I don't know. But I agree that when I was out there today, there was a semi parked blocking one lane, so you had to drive around it, which would slow you down a little if you chose to let it. But there is a lot of traffic on that street for no longer. I mean, I didn't even know it was there, but so a lot of people do.
One of the things that Mr. Murray asked me about while we were talking out there was the use of a speed bump or multiple speed bumps on this road. And I know they've done that in other cities. I think Norman has some of those as well. But I don't think, could I have staff comment on that?
By policy, the city doesn't allow the construction of a speed bump or a speed hump or any other physical device within a street to control speed on any public road.
What about a caution, dangerous intersection, something like that? Would that work?
He would be the person to answer that. Was there a reason there wasn't a speed study done? Is that?
In this application, we just didn't collect the speed data for it.
I mean, I've had people drag racing down there, side by side, drag racing down through there. I mean, it's, you know, we don't need to wait until somebody gets killed to try to slow these people down.
Has there been, in the report, there was some mention of, I think, Connolly Paving I know you can't police the world, but have you had any discussions with the local business owners to talk to them about slowing their folks down?
Yes, sir, I have. I actually talked to the owner of Connolly Paving, and he said that his people aren't the only ones that speed down through there, and I told him I was going to have them patrol down through there, and he said, do whatever you have to do. And then I talked to the owner of CSC Trucking, and he thinks it's a drag strip down through there. You know, these people aren't taking this serious. My wife thinks that, you know, I'm going to get beat up or shot or whatever out there trying to slow people down, but, you know, we have to stand up for what's right.
Mr. Murray, you mentioned several businesses in your speech. I would, let me back up. I'm going to let's address this issue first, and then I'll make some suggestions. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the adding the stops.
I'll second it.
Okay. I have is there further discussion? I have a motion to approve 5D by Commissioner Witcher, seconded by Commissioner Martin. Further discussion? I don't think that a stop sign in this particular, I think it's going to cause more problems than good because of the site distances. This is at the bottom of a hill. But yeah,
you can't patrol the area 24/7. If people are going to drag race, they're going to drag race through a stop sign. But if he sees somebody could sit out there up the hill on Farah. If they run the stop sign, give them a ticket. I mean, that's more of a violation than speeding. Running a stop sign is more of a violation than speeding. It'll count points on those truck drivers.
Commissioner Miller, I concur that people who are speeding may ignore a stop sign, and we may just be asking the honest people to stop, but there's not a lot of tools that we have to help this situation other than what's been applied for. We can't make the speed limit any lower. So it feels like about the only tool we have at our disposal to solve this problem.
Any other comments from commissioners? Okay. I have a motion on 5D to approve the stop sign, actually the all-way control at the intersection of Farah Drive and Northwest 8th, as presented by Commissioner Witcher, seconded by Commissioner Martin. Could I have your votes, please? It is approved.
Thank you very much.
Item 5E, the applicant is Jonathan Gilliland, 932 Southwest 55th Street, Oklahoma City. The request is to consider establishing all-way stop control at the intersection of South Klein Avenue and Southwest 55th Street. Is Mr. Gilliland present? Could we have staff summary, please?
Okay, you've got all our comments before you. As is with the previous case, this particular intersection does not meet any of our criteria for the use of an all-way stop control. There is a north-south stop currently in place on Klein, and Klein is actually the slightly busier of the two streets. There are some neighboring collector streets that run parallel to this intersection. One's over on Southwest 56th Street, and the other one's on Douglas. At this point in time, this particular intersection doesn't meet any of our criteria for the use of an all-way stop.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to decline the application.
I'll second the motion.
I have a motion on 5E to decline by Commissioner May, seconded by Commissioner Witcher. Is there further discussion?
I've been out and looked at this, and there's signs all different ways, and I would go along with to decline it also. It's one that just, you just can't hardly do. There's no blind spots, there's nothing. It's just wide open, so.
Thank you, Commissioner Harris. Further discussion, comments? Could I have your votes, please? Approved? Oh, could I have your votes one more time, please? Approved unanimously. Thank you. Item 5F, Traffic Management Division, Municipal Code 32-170. The request is to consider removing the school zone established for Learners Academy, 807 Northeast 63rd Street, as approved October 20th, 1997, item 6M, in accordance with 32-170A. Summary, please.
Okay, this item was brought to staff's attention. In reviewing the matter of the school zone that's in place on Northeast 63rd Street, 32-170 Section A reads that school zones are designated by Section 3271-1, which says school speed limit sign and shall terminate with Section 32-371-2 end zone sign. School zones shall be established only for public and private schools, kindergarten through grade 12. Protected schools, school sites, colleges, VOTEX, and other special schools shall not be signed. Based on the review of the site conditions and our understanding of how this particular school operates, we were not able to determine whether that Learners Academy functioned as a public and or private school that offered classes in kindergarten anywhere up through the 12th grade. Based on these findings, we're recommending that the Commission withdraw the approval that was previously granted in the late 90s. And we also note there are several options available to the Learners Academy should the Commission act to remove this non-conforming school zone sign in accordance with 32-170A. And any action taken today may be appealed to the City Council, or the Academy may opt to approach the City Council about proposing a new ordinance that might address a school situation such as this.
Thank you. I have three people wishing to speak on this. Do you all three, Ms. Pittman, Ms. Felder, and Mr. Shipp, do you all know each other? And if so, I'd like for you to present in the order in whichever you would like. If you'll state your name and address, please.
Thank you. I'm Representative Anastasia Pittman. My address is 601 Bath Circle, Oklahoma City, 73117. And please excuse my voice. First, I want to say thank you for what you do. I really appreciate your service, so I understand the commitment and the struggles that you have to have. But I want to stand before you in opposition to the removal of the school zone sign for several reasons. For one, This school has been in existence and in operation for almost 30 years. It's an information station. It's a hub for the community. Now, we may very well not meet the criteria of educating students through the 12th grade, but because that area is so unique, it's a residential area, it's a commercial area, and on Northeast 63rd, if you go 1 mile west of that school, you're in a residential area, which the speed limit should be 25. If you go 1 mile east, you go into an economic development area, beginning with the National Guard Armory being on the corner, and then people coming through to get to Cole's Garden and to get to the Western Heritage Museum, along with the Legends, along with the county line. So because it's a mixed area, we have lots of different types of traffic. If you go 1 mile north from the intersection of 63rd and Kelly, then you're in a church zone where you have 3 churches in a residential area. And if you go 1 mile south, you're also in a church zone, which each one of those religious components have schools, which this is a feeder school to those schools. If you are less than 100 yards west of this school, then you run into an institution that we partner with, which is Eagle Ridge Institute, which services those students from 8th grade to 12th grade, which is where we leave off in the 5th and 6th grade area. Those are at-risk students. Those are students who require intervention and prevention. We offer summer camps there, and it's a community partnership. My concern is that this sign has been in place for over 13 years. And what it has done is it virtually saved lives. We use that school for parent-teacher student support groups. It's a community hub. It's a cultural center. We use it on the weekends. We use it during the summer. So as a deterrent for students being on the street with lack of activities that are educational. These students are gifted. They're gifted and talented. They're above the learning curve beginning at age 3 years old. We have horticulture programs where these students are outside. They plant plants and trees. The parents come in off the hill and they have to reintegrate back into the traffic. Now, when I say a community connection or information station, Senator Angela Munson, former Senator Angela Munson, who is now our school board chair, taught classes there. Her children went to school there. My children went to school there. Senator Constance Johnson, her students went to school there. Former County Commissioner Shirley Darrell, her students went to school there. So we don't just use it as an educational system. And without that sign, what we've noticed is that there's a hill. When you come off of that light on 63rd and Kelly, people begin to accelerate. And even if they accelerate coming over the hill, just about 100 yards, you're now in a residential area. And so what we're trying to do is prevent any accidental things. We have had no complaints in the last 13 years that I've been connected with the school. No one has come inside the school and said, this is not a regular school. So with those complaints and the residential plus commercial and the 2 religious groups who are now looking to expand, you have Higher Ground Baptist Church, which is less than 100 yards away from the school to the north, is looking to expand and purchase property for a baseball diamond for more kids to function in that arena. And as I said, this permit was granted over 13 years ago due to no fault of the school. And so if there's some alternatives in place, we certainly want to look at those. We would like to recommend an alternative be a flashing light and to leave the sign there, because we want safety to be the first priority to educating the students. And with that, I'll answer any questions.
I have a question for you and a good presentation.
Yes, sir.
The Learning Center, or Learning Academy, rather, in your 1997 letter states that students that are there are primarily for children ages 3 to 8 years old. Is that still the criteria, or has that been changed?
Yes, well, the criteria is flexible. Because the students are gifted, we often find it hard to place them in a regular school setting because they are above that. We do take kids in that are older than 8. As a matter of fact, my daughter did not leave until she was 11, and she matriculated into Kip Reach College Preparatory School, which actually brought me back into the Oklahoma City Public School District. What we're trying to do is be a public-private partnership. Some of the social ills that we find oppressing our community, we tend to want to take care of those ills ourselves. And so even though the sign says 3 through 8, where we have educational people, the proprietor is a PhD, and we take those kids in with the contract of the parental agreement. Now, as you well know, a private school, you can choose to leave your kid there. Retention is not always a bad thing. You have the option to say, my kid has reached the 4th and 5th grade level at the school, and I choose to leave my kid here until they've completed the 6th grade. And so we have the right to retain those students with the permission of their parents. So they don't always leave until they're at 8 years old.
Well, I should have mentioned to you, I travel that area quite a bit. The Oklahoma line is on my status for at least my wife's. But the key to that is that your academy, I go by it quite a bit, is well kept, and seems like it's very progressive from the point of view of keeping up the facilities and maintaining the area, which I think is really good for the kids too, because then that gives them the example.
Well, it's maintained by the students. So you won't see a lawn service.
Oh, is that right?
Or a tractor
is that
come
right?
through and somebody else gets it done in an hour. It's maintained by the students.
They would be congratulated then, because they really take good care of that property.
It's maintained by the students. It's a learning facility that we believe education is fluid, so you learn both inside and outside of the classrooms. They do have safety and play things on the outside. They have extended programs, which we partner with the YWCA. They have cheerleading, they have basketball, they have all these sorts of things. They do gymnastics. They also do cultural programs. So if you ever want to be invited to a cultural program, they will put on cultural garments and do presentations in a variety of languages. I was a Spanish teacher there. We've also had a French teacher there, and these kids are learning the language between those primary years, and they do a phenomenal job. And so safety is our primary issue here.
I can tell you're sold on the Learners Academy. So.
Absolutely. They get my money and my time.
Ms. Pittman?
Yes, sir.
What percentage of the enrollment walk to school?
I'm sorry?
What percentage of the enrollment walk to school?
Now, I don't know. I come in the afternoon, so I'm not sure how the kids arrive. Most of the time, because we start so young, the kids are dropped off. Mm-hmm. But the concern is because there's a crescent driveway. Now, they can come in from Laird. They can come in from a block away from Laird because we own that property as well. But there's a crescent driveway, and when parents are lined up in the driveway, they tend to hang out into 63rd. And if the oncoming traffic is not forewarned that it's a school zone or an educational zone, I'm sorry, we don't meet those requirements, that it's a school zone, they will tend to see that there's a tail hanging out. They'll go around only to come back in and meet the second driveway, which people are exiting. And that's what makes it unsafe. And we have teachers' assistants that take the kids across the street because, like I said, it is a residential area, or kids can be picked up at Eagle Ridge Institute, which is less than 100 yards from the school.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions for Representative Pittman?
Has it ever been recommended that some kind of non-acceleration zone.
Deceleration.
Deceleration, thank you. Be added to your property so that your parents can be kind of out of traffic before they're actually
That was the purpose of purchasing the property next door. We've also looked into purchasing the property next to in visionary purposes to expand, because we do have a shop that's on the school too, so the kids learn how to function in real life. But what has happened is, during the time that this was implemented, we didn't have that as an option. We were oblivious to what those things meant. We were just, our priority was education and safety. So I'm not sure if we've even had the opportunity to sit down. This just came about by a complaint of a woman who received a traffic violation, and she just didn't want to pay the ticket. Now, it would be different if there was 100 people and there was a petition signed to say this school doesn't meet the requirement. But if you are grandfather claused in, my concern is, what due diligence or what fiduciary duty do we have to the babies when you have a sign that says they're protected, and then parents see the safety in place already and then select or opt to send their kids there, and then all of a sudden the sign is removed, and then the parents are locked in for a one-year contract, and they have really no option. So that's where my priority and my concern comes in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Marcus Ship. Oh, have you all agreed to speak in a different order, or does it matter?
Marcus Ship, 2421 Northwest 161st Street, Edmond, Oklahoma. After Anastasia Pittman's comments, I don't think I really need to say too much more, but I'm just in agreement of keeping the school zone sign there. If not, if there's some type of flashing light or something that we can identify so that individuals can slow down. Because like I have a 3, 6, and a 9. Though you don't see them, you know they're up to something. Though you don't see them, you know they're up to something. Though you don't feel them, you know they're up to something. With the school zone there, you may not see them, but the kids are present. You may not feel them and actually see them interacting as far as education, but you know they're present. So I would vote to keep the 25 speed limit zone there. That's about it.
Thank you, Mr. Ship. Lois Felder.
Good afternoon. My name is Lois Felder. It's 601 Northeast 63rd, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, zip 73105. I'm the Director of Programs and Support Service for the Eagle Ridge Institute. In conjunction with that, my grandchildren went to school at Learners Academy. They'll be getting their masters the end of next month. But as a result of the foundation that Learners Academy had provided them. The reason that that sign was there to begin with is that City Councilwoman Willa Johnson was instrumental in getting that sign put there. And the reason was a young lady was coming down the street speeding and lost control of her car and ran right up into Learners Academy. It could have been a fatality. Thank God it wasn't. The young lady was injured, but none of the children was, and simply because she was speeding. And so Councilwoman Johnson went to work and got that sign there. Now, whatever the reason is now, I would hope that you would grandfather that sign in or put a flashing light up there, because it is crucial to the community, it's crucial to that school. We have children at Eagle Ridge coming in and out all during the day, because we recently added the prevention dropout program, where we have kids come in the morning. Our feeder schools from that is Centennial, Hoover, Douglas, Moon Middle School. Those are our feeder schools there, where kids who are suspended from school and no other school will take them. And so we do during the day as prevention dropout. So the vans are coming in and out all of the time with those kids. We also have the after-school program where we have kids coming in, and we have the summer program. We also have our Shiloh camp that's there. Summer camp is going on right now. There are neighbors there next door to the school. They come out of their back way. That's how they enter out of their homes there. Across the street from the school is a business section where there are some lawyers there. And people, there's interaction along that corridor all of the time. And sometimes kids come out on their bikes coming out of Laird and going to the park up the street. So it's vital that that sign stays there as a deterrent to those folk. If you're going to remove the sign, put a flashing light. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Felder. If you'd step up to the podium, please. State your name and address for the record, and then see Cherry and fill out one of these blue forms afterwards. And I would request that you keep your comments to 5 minutes or less.
I will.
Thank you.
My name is Carolyn Mott, and I live at 721 Northeast 20th Street. And as a Northeast resident, of course, I frequent that area also. Had a daughter that lived right off of Northeast 63rd, close to Broadway Extension, and I also take my children to the Santa Fe Club. So I was the lady that complained about getting a traffic ticket. And I asked the officer, I said, well, where's the school? And he says, I don't know. And I have grandchildren in school, and so I am an advocate for children. So if something else could be placed there, like a flashing light or, when children are playing or present, I have no objections to that. It's just I didn't see it as a school, and I was stopped, and the officer didn't know where it was either. And I heard that it's not a school, if that's what I heard. So, but I am an advocate for children, so I don't mind a flashing light or when children are present or something. But that's the problem I had with it.
Thank you. Could we have staff summary, please?
Okay. I reported earlier on the conditions that are present out there. In this particular case, since it seems to be there, it may be useful to hear back from the applicants or from the people who have signed up to do some follow-on discussion on what type of warning flasher may be needed. But like I said, under the way that the codes are set up, and I don't know if our counselor would want to comment on that, we've got, there seems to be a lack of clarity on what constitutes the appropriate use for signs like this, because the way the codes are structured right now, it says that school zone warning signs are only to be used for public and private schools, kindergarten through grade 12.
Do we have school zones for elementary schools that don't go through grade 12?
Yes.
Well, the ordinance that governs, which says that the school zone shall be used only for public, private schools, and then it excludes some colleges, VOTEX, and things like that. There is no definition for what exactly a school is. So when there's a lack of the definition, statutory construction would have you look at just what the ordinary dictionary definition is, which I looked up, and a school is an institution for teaching students under the supervision of teachers. So if that is a situation that we have going on, does not fall with any of the exemptions, then I would say it probably meets the definition of school as our code defines.
One of the things that I've noticed, and I assume these pictures are correct, is many of the Oklahoma City school zones have flashing lights on them already, that when the lights are operational, those are the hours in which they're in use. This sign does not have that. And on a street like 63rd Street, I would have thought it would have.
Right. The codes address the applicability of flashing school zone warning signals, and they only apply on streets that are posted higher than 25 miles an hour. So if you find a school zone that's signed within a neighborhood where the streets are all 25, we don't install flashers in those situations. Now, on the arterial systems where you've got streets 30 miles per hour and above, then they would be considered eligible for use of a programmable flashing system.
Mr. Chairman?
Excuse me just a moment. Commissioner May?
I was just going to mention, our counselor is so adapted at her job that she can answer my questions before I ask them, but my first question was going to be, what is a school? And what I see here is that this school in 1997, reading all that detail, says we're going to have a school for 3 to 8 year olds. Now, 3 is not a kindergarten, K through 12 is shown up in here. But they're foresighted or farsighted enough to be able to say, hey, we need this at 3 to 8. Now what has happened in the state is that we have pre-K, or 3 to 8 and older. Not pre-K just for them, but starting at 3. So what's happened is the municipal code hasn't kept up. And my reaction is, this is a school that is a school that is a school, progressive in its ways. They saw the need before the state did, or at least got it done before the state did. And now we're about to say, well, the municipal code is saying they can't have this. And my reaction is, they need it more than, or just as much as, a K through 12. Because pre-K, young children out there are more apt to go out in the street than older ones. And to keep it short, my contention is that they deserve this, they've got it. If there's a way to keep it out there, let's do it, and let's change the municipal code to go to pre-K through 12. And that seems like the better solution for everybody.
Well, and the way I interpret this, that when it says kindergarten through grade 12, I don't think it means that your school has to have all of those grades. I think it could be any range in between there. My daughter she's 4, and she went to preschool, and you can't, at a private school here in town, and you can't tell me that that wasn't a school. I mean, she learned so much this year, and they do have grades preschool through 12, but even if they had only, preschool through 8th grade, I don't think that's the point. I think the point is when you have a lot of children, it sounds like we have a lot of children attending. Does anybody have, how many children attend school here?
Please come back to the podium. Thank you, Ms. Pittman.
Excuse me, Representative Pittman, you want me to tell you my address again?
No.
Okay.
No, you're fine.
I just want to comply with the rules. We have a variety of enrollment because it's on a first-come, first-served basis. And what we do, we have a waiting list, but we take maybe 50, anywhere from 30 to 50 students per semester. And sometimes those students, because they can be older, can then matriculate into another school. That slot becomes available. We interview 3 or 4 children for that slot. Some of the students qualify to be there because it's a pay-as-you-go. But if the parents don't agree to the educational concept, then we reserve the right to just keep it limited so that you have classroom size control and everybody agrees to the culture of the school. So it fluctuates. It can be anywhere from 30 to 50 students. And if you're doing a full year plan, then you'll have that same amount in the summertime as well. And they take field trips. So we have to bus those kids, load them, and then take them other places. So they do.
And your children went to school here?
Absolutely,
and
yes.
You taught here?
Yes.
You taught Spanish?
Yes, I taught Spanish for 4 years.
Do they have teachers there that are certified by the state to teach?
Well, some of the teachers are certified, but the teachers' assistants are not. And some of them also get special certification because they have a degree in another area, but they can apply for certain certification, which does not necessarily certify them in that area, but because they're so young, we can provide the curriculum for them, and they catch on to the culture. And the students is a part of that learning process. So if we have an assistant that comes in that is not certified, they very quickly learn the culture because the students will teach them.
And this isn't just a daycare, correct?
Oh, absolutely not.
Right.
None of the kids there take naps, and all of them are potty trained. So as far as a daycare, we don't change diapers, we don't control sleep and wake time and those type of things. We don't render medications. If they're on medication or something, then that parent has to come to the school and render that. So absolutely not. We don't even need a daycare license. So there's no car seats. Anything, we have to have signed permission slips for them to go to the horseback riding, to the Omniplex, the zoo, even to the bookstore. We take them to Barnes & Noble bookstore on Friday. So they have to come with their own money, be able to count, get receipts in return and tell their parents where they spent their money. So,
Is there anybody else here in the audience to testify or give us any reason why this is not a school?
There is no doubt in my mind that this is not a school, and we should be moving on that purpose, that this is a school that, as a matter of fact, I would recommend a flashing light there.
Well, thank you, Ms. Pittman. I don't have your name, but I'd like for, Ms. Mott? Yes. Let me be tender about this. You're the one that got the ticket. So if you had seen a flashing light, you just didn't see the sign, is that correct?
I did not.
Okay.
It's a very short distance in that space from the start and the end, and it's a kind of shaded area. I didn't see it.
Okay. Well, and I guess that's my point. First of all, it looks like the time is excessive, literally all day long, from 7:30 to 4:30. I think the school and the public would be better served if we implemented times and put in a flashing light. And what we would need to agree upon with the school was the times that you specify. The lights would come on, the citizens would see the lights, they would slow down, and we have a much safer environment. And so, Ms. Felder, if you'd come back to the podium, please.
Lois Felder. I spoke with County Commissioner Willa Johnson last night, and I asked her about the flashing lights, and she said that we were in a hurry to get a sign up so that there would be no incidents like the one that occurred. And she said the next step would have been to put a flashing light up there, but of course she's going on the County Commission, and I guess City Councilman Skip didn't pick that torch up yet, but we'll see about that. But that was the reason that we didn't have a flashing light. She was in a hurry to get something up there to protect the children, and that school sign was a way to do it quickly.
Thank you, Ms. Felder.
Mr. Chairman, is it appropriate here for us to try to determine the hours for flashing lights?
That's actually not on.
Okay.
Okay.
I think we could handle that next month.
Okay.
I think we just need to look at what's on the docket.
Very good.
Based on that.
I don't have that provision in front of me. I think we do need to have that on our docket for you all to make a finding that this is on a street that's so many miles per hour. I would feel more comfortable if we put that off until next month and deal with what is exactly on the docket.
The request is for the removal of the school zone, and that's really all we can address today.
I recommend we decline the removal of the school zone.
Is that in the form of a motion?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Have a motion to deny or decline the request to remove the school zone established for Learners Academy by Commissioner May, seconded by Commissioner Clayton. Further discussion? Could I have your votes, please? Approved unanimously. I would ask that okay, the staff and council will review the existing sign and see if any upgrades are deemed appropriate, and we'll get a report on that at the next commission meeting. And if it needs to be on the agenda for next time, then it will be. Oh. Mr. Shipp, did you have a question? Thank you.
Just as in closing, we would comply with whatever hours that is the standard on the norm, whether it's 7:30 to 9 for pickup time and 3:30 to 4:30 for pickup time. So I don't think we would object to any of that.
Thank you.
Do we have a blue form from somebody affiliated with the school? Okay. Which person do you want to be the contact person?
If you will contact Dr. Brenda Thompson, who's the provider.
No.
Do you have a phone?
Yes. It should be on the form, 840-450-9.
Or you need a person's cell phone number, 474-9331.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay. Item 5G, Stacy Burns, Cobblestone 3 Neighborhood Association, 12416 Carriage Way, Oklahoma City. Consider establishing all-way stop control at the intersection of Pebblestone Parkway and Northwest 127th Street. Is Ms. Burns present? Go ahead, staff summary, please.
Okay, you've got our full staff report before you. The Oklahoma City Municipal Code 2007 contains a provision governing access to public streets from private streets or driveways. That requirement requires that vehicles coming into the public street or from a private street or driveway shall yield the right-of-way to all vehicles approaching on the highway, which in this particular case is the public road. Staff did note that the observed 85th percentile speed on Pebblestone Parkway was about 40 miles an hour, and that information was passed on to the police department. At this point in time, staff does not have cause to recommend approval of the addition of stop signs on Pebblestone Parkway at Northwest 127th Street, which is private gated street.
And from a police department standpoint, once that information was passed on to me by Mr. Chai, we did give that area a little bit of attention with our solo motorcycle unit. Over numerous days, we worked a total of 5 hours and wrote about 10 citations. So.
As a matter of fact, I was out there just a week ago, and 40 is slow compared to some of the vehicles on that road. They're really going fast. I was going 35 just to test it, and I had almost every vehicle passing me.
Do I have a motion?
I make a motion that we decline the request for stoplights and that we request that the police do some enforcement out there.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Commissioner May to decline 5G, seconded by Commissioner Witcher. Further discussion? Could I have your votes, please? Approved unanimously. Item 5H, the applicant is Phil Kernan, Jr., 1472 Holly Rock Drive, Oklahoma City. The request is to consider lowering the speed limit on North MacArthur Boulevard from 45 to 35 from West Memorial Road to Northwest 150th. Mr. Kernan?
Yes, I have little corrections there. My name is Phil Kernan, Jr., and it's 14720 Holly Hock, H-O-C-K Drive, Oklahoma City. I am interested in getting the speed changed on, it says here, from Memorial to 150th. Our problem is the first half mile north of Memorial Road, which would be about 136th Street. In that first half mile, on the left-hand side, you have one intersection, which is 139th Street, which is a main entrance into Brahms, an orthopedic clinic, IBC Bank, and a back entrance to Procure and the Cancer Institute. You have 7 other intersections on that parking entrances on that west side of the street. One is in, the first one going north from Memorial is into Procure. The second one, it goes into Brahms. The third one goes into IBC Bank. And then there are 4 that access the Church of the Servant. The Church of the Servant has 7,000 members. They are not there just on Sundays. They do have a policeman to help them in and out on Sundays. They are there every evening. I drive by that parking lot, and they're filled 4 nights of the week. They have a daycare 3 days of the week. They have a kindergarten every day of the week. This summer, they have Vacation Bible School. And 4 of those entrances go into the church. 2 of them are not used very much by the pastor and the people to go into the back. Their main another thing, they have also accepted Mercy employee parking into one of those entrances, the first entrance going north. So we have overflow parking from Mercy being parked there. The employees park there, and a bus brings them over. The one entrance about 4/10 of a mile north on the right-hand side where I live with my parents. I've moved back here after a 45-year respite of going to school and living out in California and Utah and Las Vegas. And I'm taking care of my parents. And I called my dad a few years ago when he had macular degeneration. His eyesight was deteriorating. I said, Dad, I don't like you taking that exit. It's way too dangerous. You could not see from the people coming down to the right. Our entrance is on the east-hand side, 4/10 of a mile. We have 200 homes, 9 new homes being built, 350 non-resident members of the country club, 150 employees of the country club, and the other facilities in there. The problem here is not the northbound. If you were to drive up there right now, you will see that Memorial goes from 2 lanes down to 1. Right at where it goes down to 1 lane with a huge median in the middle, there's a 45-mile-per-hour sign. I took my parents on that little journey the other day and sped up to 45 miles an hour, and they were screaming at me. None of us going up north there, going into any of those entrances, is doing more than 35 miles an hour. I've driven it over and over, and I look down at my speed limit, and I'm at 35, max even 37 after I've gotten past all of the bumps. The road is in a terrible state of repair also, but Mr. Clowers, whom I want to compliment and give you a phone number to put in your cell phone, 297-3451. You call him to get your potholes fixed. When you go by a light that you see the bulb out, you call him. You talk to the girls that answer there and the men that answer there. They are friendly, they're nice, and within hours, all stoplights are fixed and your potholes are fixed within a day, 2 max. So he has kept our hundreds of potholes that are sitting on that street filled up, but you can't drive 45 miles an hour. In fact, where is the real problem here? It's coming north from 150th Street. 150th Street itself has 3 blinking lights on every side but the east side telling you that you're coming up to 150th Street. If you get started up at Deer Creek, you go from 206 down to 178th at 45 miles an hour, with one addition there actually having a sign saying slow down to 35, one of those intersection with caution, yellow caution signs. At 178th to 164th, you are sped up to 55 miles an hour. At 164th, which is county line, I believe, because the fireworks are out there, 164th down to 150th, you're at 50 miles per hour. So when you get down to 150th, they drop it to 45, and not many people are paying attention to that because they're still coming down. Now, I'm not asking necessarily that we need to go down immediately to the 35 at 150th. I've since driven that a whole bunch of times. About in 4/10 of a mile is where there's nothing that comes up, but there's blindness all on your right-hand side to the church's entrances because of trees, and Galardia is so receded in there that that's a problem. The problem I only have going north is the people following me who are getting eager to get up there. And about 1 in 10 times I'll look back and there's a big, huge truck behind me, and I'm in a car and he's just waiting, would you get out of my way? But the ones coming down are definitely flying down there, and I believe OCPD was called out, not by me, on Thursday or Friday to ticket people that were coming down from the north. So my request is at least drop it down to 35 in that first half a mile north of 150th Street. North of Memorial Road.
Thank you. Questions from Mr. Kernan?
Yes.
I would like to see it slowed down too, because when I make my left turn into Brahms, I don't want to get run over.
Into Brahms?
Right. That's my Brahms these days. And secondly, when I go over to the church there, especially when in the evenings, I would like to slow down also, because I need to make my left into the church.
Yes, definitely.
And they are coming more than 45 miles an hour from the north.
Yes. But you do agree that coming from the south, it's so bumpy that you really don't get up to the high speed.
That's true.
Thank you. Could we have staff summary, please?
Okay, you've got all our comments before you. At this point in time, we don't advocate any speed limit change on this mile of MacArthur Boulevard that would create inconsistency in the speed limit on this arterial roadway. The lowest possible speed that could be considered would be 40 miles an hour in order to maintain compliance with state law. State law restricts speed limit changes to be no more than 10 miles per hour. To go to a 35-mile-an-hour section, you would have a 15-mile-an-hour differential across Northwest 150th Street. Based on our studies, we conducted a speed study and found that the 85th percentile, or observed 85th percentile speed, was running about 53 miles an hour on this stretch of MacArthur. So based on the observed speeds, scarcity of intersection-related crashes that have occurred between Memorial Road and Northwest 150th Street, and the speed limits posted on the adjacent miles of MacArthur, staff does not recommend making any speed limit changes on this particular section of MacArthur Boulevard at this time.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we decline the request.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
The motion is to decline the request to lower the speed limit from 45 to 35 made by Commissioner Witcher, seconded by Commissioner Schuline. Further discussion?
Can we do something to look at the traffic out there and the speed limit, and do we still have the trailers, or do we use those, or?
We do have our speed trailers that can be used in this area, if you'd be interested in us having those placed on MacArthur. They're a monitoring device it'll have a speed limit sign that says, speed limit, and it'll indicate 45, and then it flashes your speed underneath it as you go by. It's a good educational device.
How about one of I see all the time these changes of the speed limit with the recommended speed limit. How about one of those with an intersection coming down from the north? It's saying recommended 35.
A speed limit warning sign for a
speed limit warning sign with the little yellow light on the top of it, coming down from the north at about 4/10 of the mile down. Warning of the intersection between Gaillardia and the Church of the Servant across the street. I see those everywhere.
Well, typically those things are used if you don't have good visibility of the intersection as you're approaching it. And in this particular case on MacArthur Boulevard, just about everything out there will pass our decision sight distance requirements based on the current posted speed limit.
Coming from the north even?
Yeah.
With all the trees and the Gaillardia's.
Right. Well, we measure decision sight distance at a driver's eye height of 3.5 feet. We use a target that's 4 foot 3 inches tall, and we have a table that indicates that when you set your measurement point 10 feet back off the edge of the road, you need to be able to see that target height continuously and never lose track of it for the full distance. And in this particular case, at 45 miles an hour, it'd be like, I think it's 490 feet.
What was your recommendation? I didn't quite understand.
To at this point in time, not make any changes to the speed limit, because one of our things that we focused in on was the fact that the 85th percentile speed, which is it's a cumulative speed that 85% of all observed drivers drove at that speed or lower than that. In this particular case, our study found that that speed was 53 miles an hour.
On that section?
Right. So to artificially lower that speed limit on this mile of MacArthur to something that is down by 35 miles an hour, we'd have, right now we've got speeding out there as indicated by this because the posted limit's 45. You'd have, you're running 8 miles an hour then, you're going to be running considerably higher as far as, the differential between what drivers are driving and what the posted speed limit is.
And what was your statement about putting a blinking light?
Oh, the speed trailers?
Yeah, what's that? Oh, speed trailer.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And we could use that as an educational tool out there. We don't have it, there's no issues in doing something like that. It would be out there on a temporary basis. We'd probably leave it for a week or something like that at a time.
Wouldn't be necessary coming from the south. It would be only necessary from the north. Because, as I said, the road is in such disrepair that people aren't going that fast. It just doesn't feel like more than 35 miles an hour. Okay.
And the police department did give this area some attention, as Mr. Kernan mentioned last week, and we worked it for about 7 hours and wrote 12 citations, and we'll continue to keep that on our radar as far as for some enforcement as well.
And I think that the other part to it is that what we've had before is that we've got some speeders out there. You're trying to take care of them, and a few tickets go a long way down there. The other thing is by noting the speed that people are going versus that it's a 45-mile zone, that's a reminder to them to slow down. Now, both those things combined with the fact that that road should be under construction in a year or less, maybe then you relook at the issue of speed limits and turn-off lanes and things like this because that road's going to change drastically. And I think that's the better solution overall.
Further discussion or comments? I have a motion to decline 5H by Commissioner Witcher, seconded by Commissioner Schuline, I believe. Is that right? Okay. Could I have your votes, please? The motion is to decline unanimously. Thank you. Or the vote is to decline. That brings us to item number 6, comments from citizens. Anyone wishing to speak? Comment from staff?
We've got no further comments at this time.
Comments from council? Comments from OCPD? Commissioner Witcher.
I have no reports this month.
Commissioner Martin.
I'd like to compliment everybody on the taxi ordinance, the work that they've done. And I know it wasn't easy, and I think it's going to work a lot better.
I haven't voted enough this afternoon.
Commissioner Harris.
I agree with Melford.
And Commissioner Knight.
I just wanted to mention the Downtown Rotary Club's celebrating its 100th anniversary of service to Oklahoma City. So I think that should be noted, at least in the record. Thank you.
Thank you. I overlooked the swearing in of the Ward 6 Commissioner, but it's already been done. So, welcome. We're glad to have you with us. I too would like to thank everybody for all the hard work on the proposal that we're sending to the City Council. It's probably not perfect, but it's a good start, and I think we're moving the right direction. And if there are other concerns, I would ask that they bring them to us or to the City Council so that we can address those things that... Okay.
I see how Captain assists us, the chairperson. Thank you so very, very much. I have been in that seat, and I know full well about that assistant. You don't count us very well. So that's your job.
He's not my right-hand man, he's my left-hand man.
I also have one thing I'd like to ask. Then last year, we forego the July meeting, and what do you think about this year? We won't have a July meeting?
Discussion? We took a vacation last year. City council takes one.
It seems like our staff did a great job in trying to position us through this meeting to not have a meeting in July. Is that a fair statement, Stuart?
Yes, it is.
I would suggest that we have a motion.
Okay, I make the motion that we delete July meeting.
And at the end of this discussion, that we adjourn the meeting.
And I haven't gotten it yet.
Okay, one at a time.
That we adjourn.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Oh, okay. Good. Okay.
So we can cancel a meeting, you know, and if you have it, I mean, you only need 5 members to have a quorum, so.
Yeah, but
Are we going to have any items next month? I mean, we might have stuff next month.
but it'll still be there in August, won't it? And whether there's 5 of us or 9 of us, he still has to do all the work, just like we were all here. So, okay, we're not voting on it. We have made a decision to forego our July meeting, and we will meet in August. And this meeting is adjourned.